He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham. Welcome to Bat Minute of the Phantasm, the show that certainly lasts longer than 5 minutes. Baby, I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And a lot of the listeners are just like, oh boy, does it. Jeez Louise.
Whether you want it to or not.
There's something, particularly this season, there's a lot of them just like, what I gotta tell you, the episode's an hour and 15 minutes after editing. Like, what do you want from me? All the stuff in there is relevant. Come on.
Yeah, we're trying to give people a platform, you know? Well, it's a short movie.
It's a short movie. Yeah, we're giving you the amount of content a normal season would be just in 76 episodes.
Exactly.
But this is a podcaster who's never too late, nor is he ever early. He arrives exactly when he means to. It's me, Niall McGowan.
Good reference. It's very unlike you to reference something, but...
Gasp. Can it be?
Well, saying can it be? Oh, we have a guest. And can it be? It is a returning guest. It's the one, the only, Jack Harvey.
Yes, thanks, Tasm, for having me.
How have we not said thanks, Tasm, even once?
I was genuinely worried. I was thinking... God, I hope nobody's made that joke yet.
Right, especially me, who's obsessed with, look around you. If you've seen that show, it always does plays on words, like thanks ants, and he changes it to thants.
It's like I was absolutely devastated when I realized way after we got out of the engagement era of the movie that in an outro I never worked in the phrase "holy batrimony." Which is just such an obvious joke, because
that's a massive failure of your duty as Batman podcasters. Really, you should not have been missed. Yeah. That shouldn't have been missed.
We're gonna have to issue a press release, Niall, apologizing and vowing to do better.
I can hang on to it. It's like maybe they'll eventually have another Batman movie where Bruce Wayne nearly gets married, and we'll cover that eventually in like 10 years' time.
Oh, but the minute we are here to talk about today is minute 67. It starts with aerial annoyance, and it ends with Art the Clown getting airborne.
I wasn't expecting you to make a Terrifier reference there, John.
It's in the cultural zeitgeist. No, I've not watched it. I don't care. I know the clown.
Yeah, I watched it with... I'm surprised, too, because I watched it with watched Terrifier 2 with 2 full-grown men. And, horror movies are nothing to me, so I'm just I was sitting, laughing with it, because it's it's funny, it's so ridiculous, it's funny. And there was a guy there going, no, this is too much, this is too freaky, I can't take this anymore. It's
I think that would be me, yeah.
So it's you're getting, the Terrifier 2 has defeated you? My God. But anyway, we're not here to talk about, I'm sure someone somewhere could eventually do Terrifier Minute.
Terrifier Minute, holy crap.
Can you make it through the whole season?
Let's do a Serbian film. A Serbian Minute.
Yeah, but yeah, Jack, just to get a context for where you're coming at with this movie. Yeah. What is your history with Mask of the Phantasm and BTAS in general?
The animated series itself, was one of the ones that we watched religiously. That was when me and my brother were kids, and it was just you genuinely. On tenterhooks, wanting to know what happens next after the cliffhangers on the two-parters and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was very memorable. But Mask of the Phantasm itself, I'm not even sure I saw it all the way through, right? I remember it being broadcast. Was it broadcast on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or something in the UK?
I remember it was on one random Saturday afternoon. And your parents are hoovering and stuff, and you're this is not the setting for this movie. You should be watching a much more atmospheric kind of vibe.
And I don't know whether we just kind of missed out on all the hype or anything like that, but I don't really remember us being particularly all that excited about it. And then, and I think we caught it about halfway through. So I think a lot of the stuff about the relationship between multiple characters in the plot really kind of went over our head, and I keep and for years later I kept getting it mixed up with, is it Mystery of the Batwoman, is it?
Oh yeah.
And I kept getting it mixed up because both of them essentially involve a female vigilante-esque character that Batman has to get to the bottom of, and then it's like it's one of them weird ones where I think I don't know whether it like was particularly well regarded at the time, but I don't remember hearing it about getting talked about particularly favorably until like years later, when it was just like, oh yeah, Mask of the Phantasm, absolute classic, absolute classic.
Yeah.
But I don't recall hearing people talk about it that until I don't know, until like I was around about university, so that would be like 2007, 2008. So.
But anyway, minute 67.
Yes, we are back with these annoying little planes being a nuisance.
Yeah, the auto
It's just
gyros.
not on, is it? It's not on.
It's bloody disgrace is what it is.
It is.
Predates drone warfare, though.
Yeah.
It's, in a couple of decades, Obama was sending them over, on strike missions, etc.
Hey, you're right. When people watch this for the first time, this probably seemed absurd. And now it's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, makes sense.
And going over to some guy in Iraq going, "You're too late, Obama. There's 40 drums of oil under the ground and they're all rigged with high explosives." No!
I was going to say, one little detail that I like is the planes fly in, and he does this kind of absurd little maneuver where he manages just to scoop them up in his cape in one swoop, and then he spins round and he whacks them on the floor. And then shortly later, when he's running along, you can see the tears in his cape, and it's just like that's an extra level of detail that they didn't have to do, but it's appreciated. Like, he could have smashed him up and carried on running, and if his cape looked undamaged, you'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's his special Batman cape, I'm sure it's made out of it. But they were like, no. And of course, it's part of the whole sequence where he's getting slightly more battered and beaten up, and he gets the bleeding on his cheek and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, it's kind of, for despite being just like a very brief bit, the fact that they decided to go, okay, but make sure there's some rips in his cape to emphasize that it happened is an interesting extra level that not really noticeable, or not consciously noticeable on first watch either. It's one of them ones where I'm sure the back of your head picks it up, but you're not actively paying attention to it.
Yeah.
No, you're right though. If it didn't do it, I wouldn't question it. You just go, okay, I guess it's made out of some material that's, impervious to tiny plane propellers.
Yeah. I think they should have added more detail though. Like, he keeps having to take out little plane parts out of his pants and stuff as he goes on. It's like, oh, God damn it, it's all stuck in there now. In the middle of while flying through the air with the Joker, he's still kind of gears out of the. It's like, why do I have to wear the pants on the outside? It's just made it even worse now. The thing is though, again, we've pointed this out a couple of times this season. This is another thing that I don't think you couldn't pull this off in live action either. Because it's just like, particularly too with the way they construct these bat suits, even nowadays with like our Battinson, there's probably a whole big rigmarole though. Like, no, the cape takes like 10 minutes to attach to the rest of the suit. Like, you have to go in and clip everything in to make sure it's secure, and you couldn't just have him rip off the cape and then swish it back on himself. It's like, no. Particularly the Keaton suits and stuff, I think they were like, they're literally like molded into the shoulders and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure Christian Bale's Batman suit was just like, no, that cape is literally going into his shoulders. Like, you can't take that off. It's part of the suit.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the benefits of animation, that you could do something like this. It's kind of like almost like an anti-Incredibles sequence of like, look how beneficial a cape could be in a scenario like this.
Yeah.
It's like all the benefits of Batman's cape. 1, you can catch planes in it. 2, it looks cool.
It
3,
does look pretty cool.
I don't know. Sometimes you can use it as a hang glider, I guess.
I think he does. I think there are various sequences in the series where he covers it himself when there's an explosion because it's fireproof or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's probably the one that sticks in my mind the most.
I also just kind of appreciate that, normally when Batman has to get out of a situation like this, they come up with a very, very, very convoluted way out of it that'll involve him doing something over the top. But this is just like, no, I'm just going to grab him and beat the crap out of him. It's like, yeah, nice one. Might makes right.
I don't have time to find a gadget to deal with this.
Just smash them all up.
I don't have time to deploy my own bat-shaped mechanical aeroplane drone.
Yeah. There would be some sort of thing. If this was Adam West, he'd use a coin to reflect light off the roof into a disco ball that would shoot lasers out and shoot them all out of the air or something. No, just all I got is the cape. And if it tears, who cares? I'm just gonna have to keep moseying on.
Even in the animated series, it often does do it. So it was a nice change. It shows how urgent this is. It's no, I've just got to smash these up and get to the Joker.
I love the musical flourish though. Because it's just been going on this big tirade of these planes coming at him. And then just him to do that and then a real note of da-da-da-da, it's yep, back to business. Where Batman, there's a little Batman theme there for a second, just to be like, yeah, he did the thing. Because he's Batman, of course he's going to get out of this. Hey. But then, we do get, of course, the Joker pops up then with, you're too late, Batman. And my question was late for what? He's here to save you, man. His whole thing was he knows the Phantasm is coming to kill you, and then he shows up and he's just all right, so I stopped her, and then so you're too late. Too late for what? What were you? Did I stumble upon a scheme you were working on that I had no idea was even happening?
Yeah, I think you can see very much the whole. Could have done with a few more rounds in the. A few more drafts there where you're reading through and you're like, hang on a minute, yeah. What does he mean you're too late? Does it make sense in context? But it's one of those things of course, if you're on autopilot and you're writing the Joker's about to escape scene, you're automatically just going to go, you're too late, Batman.
He always says it, yeah.
Do that, yeah.
Well, I suppose, I'm trying to put some kind of logic to this. I suppose Joker is blowing the place up, right? And maybe unless I'm misremembering, does Joker think Batman is there to also get him?
I guess it's because the thing now is just all right, I guess I've stumbled across the Joker. I better just arrest him because
and Batman doesn't know.
One count of being the Joker. There you go. That's what you did.
I suppose Joker doesn't know that Batman doesn't know about the bombs.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I guess even though Batman could be well, he did bomb both that Salva Lester's apartment and Andrea's apartment, and he is also the Joker. He's probably out here illegally already. He probably escaped from Arkham Asylum, so there's already a warrant out for him.
There's probably bodies there that he's left.
I think this is still another civics issue where it's just if the city of Gotham didn't want the Joker just making bases in abandoned theme parks and carnivals and giant and miniature cities and stuff. They really should just, demolish them themselves instead of just letting the Joker take up residency and then plant a load of bombs down there.
Yeah, there still really needs to be a thing of going through what are all the abandoned places we have, and what villains are currently released.
This area's got 500 miles of tunnels. Well, that's going to be no end of problems for us. Let's get the concrete in. What derelict warehouse is still there's the old puzzle factory.
Yeah, is Edward Nigma always escaped? Oh, so go check that out. That's probably where he's going to be.
The giant chess set in the park that never got its grant finished. So that's currently the hangout for layabouts. That's clearly going to be turned into some scheme for a villain or another. So get them flagstones up. Remove any of the giant chess pieces that are still around. Don't encourage them.
I really do wonder, though, if the Joker he was already cooking something up, though. Because they have, 20 miles of tunnels, and they're all filled with high explosive. It's either everywhere he goes and everywhere he settles, he's I got to line out the entire place with explosives because eventually Batman's going to show up, and I'm going to need an out. So I got to always, everywhere I am, have the place be laced with explosives. Or if he had a thing where it was this is going to tie into, a Gotham retrospective thing that's coming up, and then I was hoping people were going to come back out to the world of tomorrow, and I was going to tie into some, weird Joker scheme where like the planes were gonna like it was it has some elaborate crap that he's thinking of.
Vials of laughing gas over the city or something like that.
Yeah. That means it's something like, oh, it's the world of tomorrow, but I can do a he probably said there's got to be a funny spin on this somewhere. Like with the Joker, half the time of it's like, are the schemes like impromptu things that he finds funny in the moment? Or is he like a comedian sitting really honing his material and been like, no, I have to like go for the bigger laugh with this one? Because we do see him in episodes, like that Mad Love episode. He is literally sitting drawing up blueprints of new schemes he can do. Like he is a comedian going like, well, this will be funny, right? Like I think this will get a rise out of people, to do this and that with piranhas and et cetera, et cetera.
See, I love it when you get those kind of things for Joker, because, again, it makes sense for the character. When you get other characters sort of sitting around scheming in that way, I always find it a little bit strange, like, because you'd think you'd stop and go, hang on a minute, am I the baddie? But Joker, you're like, yeah, of course, he's working on his bit.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. Like, it's like his job. He's like, I get up and I sit down, I get my coffee and I sit at the table.
He's got an alarm every morning.
He can't stop when, there's people expecting. Yeah,
totally. He's just like, well, my public awaits, so I gotta come up with an even zanier scheme this time. And he comes on, he's like, well, I got here fish. Oh, hey, can you copyright fish? Oh, you can't? Oh, no, I'm going to run with that bit, though. The idea is some guy trying to copyright fish, that'll be great.
I like the idea that he basically thinks he's in Jackass or something.
Like, this is the Joker, and welcome to Gotham.
Who is Johnny Knoxville, if not the real world's closest equivalent to the Joker?
Yeah. Never thought of it before, but I can see it now.
I was wondering, Jack, though, because I thought you're a man who's big in the comic sphere and in some of the sort of rarer corners of it. Did you ever read Mark Hamill's comic that he brought out back in the 90s?
No, he brought out a comic, and then I've got a story. Well, first, hang on. You tell me about this first, because I've either never heard of this or have heard of it and forgotten about it.
I've got one question before you go into it, Niall.
Oh, yeah.
This may actually be another way I saw Mark Hamill in the intervening years. Is this a comic he advertised by appearing on Third Rock from the Sun?
Oh, he might have done. I don't know. I have to look into it. I know he was out on talk shows and stuff talking about it, but like,
I'm sure it's Third Rock. There's an episode where they go to meet Mark Hamill at the comic book store. So not knowing he wrote comics, I was like, oh, cool, it's going to be like a Star Wars thing. And it's like, no Star Wars. It's about this comic.
Well, let's see if I can quickly Google it. But that does seem like it would be era appropriate, at the time. So Third Rock, Mark Hamill. And if at any point you see, the comic was called The Black Pearl. Clearly in a period of time before... oh, no, it's looking like see what we've got here. Like an autobiography or something. Oh no, it is. Yeah, you're right, John. It is.
There you go.
The Black Pearl. Yeah. We might have to review that episode
what is? Because it sounds like a pirate thing. Is it a pirate thing?
No. The Black Pearl was it's weird because he co-wrote it with his cousin, a guy called Eric Johnson, who then went on to get Oscar nominated for writing The Fighter with Christian Bale. But he's been pitching this. Apparently, they both originally wrote it as a screenplay, and it's one of those things. Like, I'm sure at the time in '96, this was like, what an ingenious concept.
Yeah, don't keep me in suspense. What is it about? Tell me what it's about.
It's about a guy who, like, a mentally disturbed man in the real world. His name is Luther Drake. Yeah, and he at one point comes across a woman who's about to get abducted, and he stops it, and then the press, and particularly like a shock jock Howard Stern-esque radio DJ, kind of big him up into being a superhero. Like, he's kind of so mentally unstable, he starts playing into it. Yeah. And they kind of make him like, oh, this guy, he's like Batman, but it's real life, right? And so the whole thing was like, Mark Hamill's pitch was like, the film was going to be an R-rated, intense, realistic superhero movie. Like, what if Batman was actually real? Which back in 1996 was probably like, amazing.
Yeah.
And but since then we've had Super.
Yeah, I was literally about to say this was just going to be Super, wasn't it?
Yeah, and seeing him interviewed about it, like in 2011, he's going like, yeah, I'm a bit worried that people are going to beat us to the, because he's still planning to make the movie. Like you see him on not David Letterman, but you see him on Conan O'Brien promoting the comic, saying like, oh yeah, we're going to start filming this at the end of the year. It still hasn't materialized.
Okay.
Like, and it's getting to a point where you're like, I think, Mark, you might think people are kind of glad handing him and like, oh no, we'll definitely make that someday, Mark.
So my Mark Hamill in a comic book, or writing a comic book, I should say. Well, technically not writing it. I have a story about a comic where he was apparently going to be a creative consultant on it, or something like this. Now, I'll probably best explain it like this. It's 2011. It's the first time I went to New York Comic Con, and Mark Hamill's there, but there isn't a Mark Hamill panel. There's no Q&A or anything like that. The only panel he's at is for this comic, this comic that was called New Gen, I think, Newgen. So if you wanted to go and ask Mark Hamill some questions about being on Star Wars or whatever, you had to go to this panel that was in principle supposed to be about, hey, there's this new comic coming out, come to the panel, you're going to hear all about it. But really it was just, we all know you want to see Mark Hamill, we all know you want to ask, so come to this panel, hear us talk about this comic we know you don't care about for like 25 minutes, and then you get to talk to Mark Hamill. Okay, and look, I'm not going to lie, that is entirely why me and the mate decided to go to the panel.
They know that's why. They're clever.
They're
clever.
But what was interesting was, so basically, in brief, this New Gen supposedly was basically like a story about nanotechnology, and it was sort of like, it sounded a bit like it was kind of like the Tomorrow People, where it was like there's this specific breed of human beings that can access nanotechnology that other species can't, other people can't, and stuff like that. And I don't really remember all that much about it. They did have like a volume 1 that was already released, and apparently Mark Hamill was coming on board to do the remainder of it. And they really, really were pushing it. I mean, they already had Mark Hamill on board. They had a massive stall out on the convention floor. Loads of people in cosplay dressed up as the characters. And the panel itself, as the writer was there, the artist was there. And then they had this guy who was the money guy, who was just constantly talking about how this isn't just going to be a comic, boys. It's going to be a transmedia experience. It's going to be across multiple platforms. And they were talking about how, and they were showing concept art for a film and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Mark Hamill, of course, was going to be playing one of the characters in the film. Now, to the best of my knowledge, literally none of this materialized. My mate ended up buying this volume 1, read it, and I was like, how was it? And he was like, well, it was okay. And it was like, I don't know what all the, because as well, another one of the things that were bigging up, that were saying this isn't about fantastical things, this is future technology, this is all plausible, this is all within the realms of science and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my mate was just like, halfway through the story, they go to hell. And they have to battle demons. It's just like, I don't know what they were talking about. It wasn't remotely like hard science fiction. And anyway, this whole thing was presented as it was going to be absolutely massive. And whatever it was, as far as I can tell, it's never materialized. I remember I looked into it like a couple of years ago. Absolutely nothing. I don't even know if you can still get the original comic. So my theory is probably a couple of decent, talented Enterprises guys started a small press comic, met some kind of money man that was going to be like, sign up with me, boys, sign a contract. I'll put you in touch with all the studios. And I imagine that's and Mark Hamill probably, I mean, maybe Mark Hamill knew them. Maybe he was genuinely impressed with the work. I don't know. Maybe he got roped into it through some other means. I don't know. But whatever it was, it never materialized. The film never materialized. The transmedia experience never materialized. And Mark Hamill has never spoken about this ever again. So,
it feels like he was just repeating past failures, though. Because again, like, if you look into The Black Pearl, there's a little section that goes like, oh yeah, he was working on a computer version of it for Access Software.
Yeah.
which is a company that ended up being bought by Microsoft, and they just completely dropped everything to do with the Black Pearl. So.
That's a typical Microsoft thing. They buy companies and then just can everything. It's like, well, why did you buy them then?
What they need to realize is not everybody can be William Shatner's TekWar, series of books, a TV series, and a video game. They see that and they think, I can do that. I can do what William Shatner did with TekWar. And let me just say, TekWar was a once in history occasion. The TekWar cannot be replicated for good or ill.
Yeah. But it's just, the last I've heard, like, Hamill still barks on occasionally about, like, I'm directing this Black Pearl movie. But, like, back, the interviews you see with him in 2011, he's going, like, I was a bit worried when Kick-Ass came out, because that was very similar to what we had planned. But, no, they're doing crazy crap with, like, like rocket belts and things like this. And you're like, but, dude, the guy who runs DC now, James Gunn, made the movie. It was called Super. It had Rainn Wilson in it.
I'm getting the impression that it would have been less comedic than Kick-Ass and Super. But it's one of those things that even so, it's going to invite comparisons by now. It also sounds a bit like it sounds to me as though there would be a bit of overlap with The Crow as well, in some senses as well.
Yeah. Oh, actually, now you're making it sound good.
It's like an annoying way though. It's like you can't like go onto like a site and like digitally read it, and it's easily available, but at a cost. Like it's an annoying way where it's like, oh yeah, you can buy like the 5 issues and they're all like £2.50 each. Yeah, but you'll also have to pay £9 shipping because they're coming from like the Netherlands or something. Yeah. It's like, well, I'm not paying £50 to read Mark Hamill's 5 issue miniseries or whatever. But I remember though, it really stuck in my mind because again in the 90s when the guy was just a ghost. I think around the time when the special editions came out of Star Wars, in case people don't realize what I'm talking about, there was like a Star Wars magazine came out, and I remember they had a thing about the Black Pearl in it, and I was like, what? Luke Skywalker wrote a comic book? Oh, that's going to be amazing. It's going to be huge. And I proceeded to not hear anything about it for the next 20 years after that until I was like, didn't he have a comic he was bringing out or something? And whatever happened there? But I get that vibe as just like, again, it was the Mark Hamill curse at the time where it's like, I'm sure he was excited. Like everything about this was like, it seems like it's another road to success. No, it's been cut off again. Just like, I got to play Mozart on Broadway. I could be in the movie, right? No, you can't. It's every single thing I do seems like it's going somewhere. No, it's not, because it's not Star Wars. But at least I got to do the Joker, But,
well, yeah, exactly. Even if things didn't go the way he might have wanted, it's still very successful. The fact he even made a comic book, Yeah.
But anyway, I suppose we should get back in the minute because we have like Joker, just classic scenario of he does a runner, Batman gives chase. I'm always very struck by these things now because it's a thing I always get excited about because you used to see it all the time in the cartoons, but it was a thing like they couldn't quite do in the live action movies. Just the idea of Batman like running after someone properly. Because, the movies is always like he just sort of appears out of places and because the suit's so restrictive and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that's why, like, the Ben Affleck's, of course, he can move a lot more, but a lot of that's CGI enhanced and stuff. So
that's kind of one of my little things that I felt like the Batman, the most recent one, really, I think would have been I kind of feel like his more armored up kind of look was unnecessary for the version of the character he was playing, and I think he could have benefited more for a lighter, faster Batman, personally.
But that's the thing, that one of the big moments in the Batman, though, that got me is that there's a moment, like, obviously at the end where, the Riddler's goons have taken over that stadium, and, like, they shoot the mayor and all this stuff, and, like, everyone's going into a massive panic, and like they've got their guns trained on everyone, and Gordon has a look of like, what? Who can help us now? And of course the roof blows, and then Batman just jumps down, rolls over, grapples 2 guys, jumps backwards, like off a thing, so they go up into the air. Then he lands on like a catwalk and starts booting it across, and the cape's flowing behind him, and then and they're all shooting at him and stuff. And I was like, it looks like the animated series. Like that's the way Batman moves. Like, he can zip around and do things really quickly like that, and the cape flows behind him. Which even like Christian Bale's kind of there, but it's like people will tell you ad nauseum about how badly shot the action is in the Nolan movies.
Yeah.
So you couldn't quite see it, but just to be able to like, there's Batman running across a catwalk with his cape flapping behind him. That's a thing I've seen in animated form 10 billion times, but I've never seen it done properly where it looks like it's actually real. It's not like Ben Affleck where it's like, that's not a real guy though. That's like a CGI composite of Ben Affleck jumping around and stuff. So
no, you're right though, because I think when I think of animated Batman and even in stills, even comic book Batman, the cape is always in motion.
Yep. Yeah.
But on like live action film, it would look weird. I don't know. They've got to try and find a way to do it though, as like a nod. But if it was moving around like that, you'd be like, well, what's the cape for? It's useless.
It's always such a seminal part of those Arkham games, where his cape would flap up and you just get to see the bat butt. The molded plastic of the buttocks just right there. And,
Joel Schumacher's legacy right there.
But yeah, so we have a nice little bit where he runs in, and it's just like has this little sort of almost like a breather in the action of he runs into the hallway and has to kind of look around for where the Joker is. And so we just sort of get a little, you hear laughing in the distance, and then Batman sort of tries to, it's like, oh, it's coming from this direction and stuff. Guess the Joker. You wonder if he's doing it deliberately, because he's like, he could have got away if he just didn't laugh, or was it a compulsive laugh, like he couldn't help himself, or was he like, I can't help but try to tease Batman, so I'm laughing to let him know where I am, so he can see me escape, because that's going to be funny to me.
That's a good thing to bring up. Is the laughing in this particular version, is it caused by the things that have happened to the Joker, like he can't help it, or is it because he's a jerk? Like they are two different ways of interpreting it, and they often pick one.
Yeah, I would be leaning much more towards that he's just a jerk. Like I said, it's not like Joaquin Phoenix where it's like he has a little card saying please excuse my laughing and stuff. But yeah, just in this instance, is he just trying to tease him? Like, I know he's looking for me, but I want him to know where I am so he can see me jet off, because there's no way he's going to catch me in this thing.
But why does Batman follow him, right?
The Joker getting all set into seeing Batman walking home, like, hey, come back, what are you doing?
Because if he knows about the bombs, why isn't he looking for the bombs? If he doesn't know about the bombs, it's like, well, okay, fine, Joker, I'll get you later. Like, why? Maybe he does know, and he thinks Joker has like a detonator?
I guess maybe.
Or does he want to make sure that it's not a bluff and a distraction tactic or something?
They say like 20 miles so it's a massive area. So it's maybe like I need to stop him to get him to turn off the bomb unless it like destroys like a friggin' like a fifth of the city or whatever. Just from,
I guess because maybe like diffusing all of that might be a challenge and a half if it's that much. Yeah. And
also weirdly, he doesn't stop him. Like the place does blow up, so it's like, oh well, I hope that didn't do too much damage.
Well, speaking of the stuff blowing up as well, I like the 5-minute timer. When he says 5 minutes, because that's a realistic amount of time. Most movies do like 1 hour or something like that. But this 5 minutes, that's enough time for Joker to actually get away while still kind of maintaining the tension for the hero character. Because when they say, "Oh, it's going to blow up in 1 hour," it's like, why have you made the detonator so bloody long? Like, what the?
It might be a rare thing too, where like usually in a movie where they say like, "Oh, you've only got 3 minutes," and then 10 minutes.
7 minutes go by.
Yeah.
But because this movie moves so fast, it might be even like less than 5 minutes before those bombs go off. I think it might actually like if we timed it along with the show, it's like no, like the 2 minutes time, those bombs are gonna blow. So
that's a good point. Yeah. Let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
make a note of that. Let's keep an eye on it, because I mean, in the draft script, it does say 5 minutes as well, but there's a longer line, which I don't know why they bothered writing this. He says, "In 5 minutes, everything goes up in the biggest blast since the Arkham Christmas party." And you're like, that's not like a joke.
Yeah,
that's just weird.
This is what wants to just a little plug for Arkham Asylum there.
I can see why you would immediately go, nope. If you're going to say something like that, make it a pun.
The thing you just wonder now is like, was there a big? Well, you know, from Christmas with the Joker, that one episode, he escaped on Christmas Day by a rocket that was hidden inside the Christmas tree. In one of the most like, one of the big things of like, this show is nothing like your Adam West Batman. And then, like, one of the first episodes was Christmas with the Joker, where it literally opens like, well, I can imagine Susan Romero climbing on a Christmas tree and riding it out through the roof. That's 100% of an Adam West kind of move.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that's maybe they were trying to allude to that, or maybe there's like another thing. Maybe multiple Christmases have passed since, and there was a riot or something at Arkham during the.
That's the thing. I don't know. It could be referring to any, or it could just literally be saying, "Oh yeah, it's always a great party down at Arkham at Christmas." You know,
yes, you never accept the invite. I'm always busy. One of you assholes always escapes.
We do Secret Santa and everything.
But of course, then when Batman goes outside, we start going into the reason I thought of you for this minute, Jack, is that he sees in the distance a giant rocket man. Alone. I forgot the lyrics of Rocket Man. I was trying to make a Rocket Man joke, and my brain completely fogged. I was like, "What are the lyrics of Rocket Man again?"
Well, I mean, where do you do just a regular Rocket Man joke? Do you do a Shatner doing Rocket Man joke?
See, the specter of Shatner is really over this episode for some reason.
Yeah, it's been he gets everywhere, that William Shatner.
But yeah, so we have a big giant rocket man. Presumably, this is one of the attractions, and then the Joker steps out, behind it with a jetpack that he has himself. But it's a very specific jetpack.
Yep.
In that it is very clearly a replica of the jetpack worn by James Bond in Thunderball.
Thunderball, yeah. Sean Connery.
Which is like, I know you're. Cause I'm not a big Bond guy. Like, I dip in and out of Bond, but I know that you are a Bond aficionado.
Yep.
Jack. So
which is why I'm also going to point out that it reappears in Die Another Day, the worst James Bond film. So there you go.
Oh, that's a claim and a half. Oh my God, the worst one.
The spin-off song, of course, done by Madonna, who was supposed to be one of the contenders to play Harley Quinn in Batman Triumphant, which they seem to now to, like, as of recording, that Batman 89 continuation comic is coming, and it looks like they're basing Harley on Madonna's likeness in it. So
I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that's such a cool thing.
We're getting Jeff Goldblum, Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And Madonna says, like, I was already excited, but now, like, this is the card designs for the... Oh, we'll talk about it. We'll be covering it on the Patreon, of course, when
I'm sure we will.
But the thing is, because I started to get into my head of, like, but why Thunderball? Like, why, of all, like...
I mean, it's one of them things where I kind of feel like its influence has waned in recent years, but, like, at the time, at the mid-90s, it was like... jetpacks were a James Bond thing. Like, it was like the first thing a lot of people would think of when you just mentioned a jetpack would be like, oh yeah, like Sean Connery at the end of Thunderball, right? So it's it's certainly its influences wore off now and been replaced with more from The Simpsons with the giant fan on the back. Giving, rescuing drowning children or whatever it was. That's what everybody thinks of now. No, but on a more serious note, yeah, I mean, I think jetpacks, like, at the time, like, you didn't see them a lot in films because they were difficult special effects wise. So that's one of the reasons why Thunderball sticks in everybody's head when it comes to jetpacks. But they've been done since then, really. What year was The Rocketeer? The Rocketeer was what, 1995?
I think that was like 1990, The Rocketeer, which is a bit weird. You think if you're going to do all, that's so influenced, or maybe it was like 92, but that's part of that sort of thing of
right. You want to know? It's right in the middle of those two now, 91.
Oh, but it's that has such that lingering thing of, like, there's movies of that time where, of course, 89 comes out, and that's very like, it's going for a retro noir feel, so everyone's in fedoras and pinstripes.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to remember. I mean, the James Bond Thunderball jetpack was so influential that it was still getting made reference to in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where you could and the plot and the storyline and the world of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas have next to nothing to do with James Bond, and they still thought, let's put the Thunderball jetpack in there somewhere.
The video for Robbie Williams' Millennium.
Yeah.
The Big Pop song, massive, probably would mean nothing to the American audience, or anywhere outside of the UK. But like that huge music video from the 90s, and it had Robbie Williams in a tux, which James Bond isn't even wearing a tux in the scene. But it's because it's like, well, like James Bond, you have to put on the tux and then get in the rocket pack. And
it's shorthand for Bond.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's one of those scenes that's like it's iconic.
And it's not even him covering or doing a semi-cover of Thunderball. It's him doing a semi-cover of You Only Live Twice, which doesn't have the jetpack. So he should have been flying the gyrocopter Little Nelly instead.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's a massive failure on Robbie Williams' parts there. But yeah, that's right, because it uses the string section from You Only Live Twice. But of course you mentioned just as a little incidental tie-in. Because we're talking earlier in the season about random tidbits about Mark Hamill, and I read last year Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, her autobiography, and she's been like she's done it all and she had a story in that where she said about like Mark Hamill came to her house one time and it turned out to be it was his old college dorm. Like she had bought this used to be my college dorm. My friend killed himself over in that corner right there. We found his body one day, and one other, many stories stick out in it, but one that really, because Tom Jones is so beloved over here, I think it is throughout the world, but over here in particular. And I remember, like, apparently when she used to be a groupie in the 60s, and then she became a showgirl in Vegas in the 70s. But she had met Tom Jones as a groupie and had had sex with him one night. And then, years later when she was a showgirl in Vegas, Tom Jones comes to play. And she's like, "Oh, I'll go. Maybe he'll remember me."
Oh, you mean? Okay, hang on. I got confused when you said he came to play. I thought you meant like.
Well, I'm sure he also did come to play in that regard. But the one thing about Elvira was that she got scalded with boiling water when she was a kid, so she got really badly burned. And so that's why we see her it's always very it's always nudity in certain places because a lot of her skin has scarring on it. So a lot of cleavage, but you won't see her upper arms or anything like that apparently when she met up with Tom, she kind of got Tom. She's like, Tom, we've been together. Do you remember me? And he just kind of looked at her and went like, "Oh yeah, you were the chick with all the scars on her back, right?"
Oh, you don't say that.
Yeah, and then he just kind of he just swaggered off about his business, and she was like, she has a little thing about it was really devastating because that was the footnote to Tom Jones, was just like, "Oh yeah, some chick with the scars on her back that I shagged one time," and then went on about my business. But
that's not good. Even if that's how you think of her and remember her, you don't say it.
Yeah, he struck like Thunderball that day. Let me tell you.
He's not a gentleman like Bond.
Well, that's because I watched it. I was all set to watch all of Thunderball yesterday. It's like, I'll just check the context of the scene. It's in the opening scene with the rocket. So that afterwards you're like, oh, I guess I don't really need to watch the rest of the movie now because I already saw the scene.
Yeah, and I was never that into Thunderball.
I'll tell you something about Thunderball. I personally think that the novel, the book, is like one of the best of Fleming's novels. I always say, if you're only going to read, say, 3, read Moonraker, Thunderball, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They're also probably. Oh well, Moonraker's nothing like the film. Like the actual book Moonraker is entirely set in the UK, and it's about the British rocket program and sabotage
already
going
totally
on and
different.
But they're also the 3 probably least problematic Fleming novels. The 3 that have aged the least badly.
So the few scenes I saw of Thunderball, it's like it's just Bond in full-on sex pest mode, like harassing this masseuse lady to shag him and stuff.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
Well, and if he's not doing that, he's usually being a bit racist.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's coming down the line as well. But no, so for the context of the scene, because I was like, is there any kind of because again, like saying I would almost have thought like they would go for the Rocketeer because it's a much more dynamic-looking rocket pack.
And plus, it's part of the pulp hero pedigree that Batman comes from.
And it's also, and it's kind of, that movie is almost kind of spinning on Batman 89, because of course that movie is very retro, very 40s noir inspired. Then of course you have Dick Tracy to just push that way, way too far almost. And then the Rocketeer is the same thing, like a superhero in like the 30s or whatever. Yeah, that's what people are into right now, right? And so I thought they would do a little tip, but maybe because the Rocketeer is Disney, and Warner Brothers are like, the hell with them. Go friggin', who are we buddies with? Friggin', yeah, MGM or whatever. Yeah, go for the Bond reference. But no, it does, Bond is a whole big thing where he's sneaking in to see this lady, but the lady turns out to be a guy in disguise. And I was like, is it maybe they're going for Thunderball because like you think the Phantasm is Andrea's dad, but it turns out to be her, so it's kind of like a flip of that situation, and so it's a little Thunderball nod. It's like I don't think that's what it is, but you're
definitely overthinking that. Like I'm saying, mid-90s. Say, first thing that comes to mind when I say jetpack. Somebody goes, Sean Connery, Thunderball.
Yeah. And also, because apparently it was an actual jetpack that was like and a very kind of like Lucius Fox in the Nolan movies kind of move. It was a thing that was designed originally for the army. And they poured millions, Bell Aeronautics or something. It's a bit like Bell Labs, I guess. They poured like thousands upon thousands, but of course back in the 60s was a much bigger deal, into like, oh, it's a rocket pack for soldiers. And then they find out like, oh, it can only go like 15 feet, and then you have to stop again.
so pretty useless then.
Yeah, you see it in Thunderball. Like, I'm sure back in the day it was like, what the hell? But now it's just like, yeah, he gets on a jetpack and he goes like 5 feet, and then the scene's over, and you're like, but like the Rocketeer, man, he was flying all over the goddamn place. But I do know that because apparently it was a legitimate thing. They then gave it over, so they'll give it over to the Bond people. But apparently also Disneyland have done several sort of like shows around this rocket pack, which they always refer to as the rocket belt, which is so like, it's a terrible name in comparison to like jetpack. Rocket pack sounds cool, but like rocket belts doesn't sound like,
no, that sounds way like less impressive to me.
Yeah,
that sounds more like you just have a little rocket booster on your belt. You unbuckle the belt, you press the button, and then it sort of like shoots out of your like round your waist and then off like a rocket. Like it's a weapon, not something that's going to be taking you anywhere.
I mean, like the thing that, remember when Superman back in like the Golden Age, when he was Nightwing. Remember, he's trapped in the bottle till of Kandor or whatever, and he loses all his powers, but he becomes a superhero, Nightwing, which is where Nightwing, Dick Grayson, gets his name inspired by, is from the time Superman told him about when he was a hero in Kandor. But he has a little rocket belt thing. Like the little jets come out the side, and it's like, oh, it's the same kind of idea, I guess. But no, apparently during the Disneyland did a thing for the 1984 Summer Olympics revolving around that particular rocket pack. So, like, again, maybe it was a kind of like, well, you know, this World of Tomorrow is kind of like, it's got an Epcot kind of influence on it. Yep. So Disneyland, you know, et cetera. But another thing is, because again, too, talking about Bond, because he's not so much. Do you know that there is a massive, like, into the DNA connection between Bond and Batman? Are you aware of it, Jack? Because it's like, when I found out, I was like, wow, I had no idea. But
are we talking about as in when they were originally created?
No, I just mean in Bond in general has like some of the people involved are like intimately connected with Batman.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Well, I mean, this isn't an exact one-to-one comparison, but just we brought up the Rocketeer before, and of course Timothy Dalton was in the Rocketeer, you know. But yeah, of course, you mean like production staff, writing teams.
Yeah, but I mean the big one is, of course, like the original Batman, like way back in the 40s, like Lewis Wilson, who we've talked about a couple of times this season already. But Lewis Wilson go on to have a son, one Michael G. Wilson, who, of course, then married into the Broccoli family and has been one of the producers of the Bond films since, like, Moonraker or something. I'm
such a weird kid. Every time I saw that at the start or end of a Bond movie, I was like, broccoli.
Broccoli, yeah.
But apparently his mother claims, like, Donna Broccoli, and she was Donna Wilson, I guess, when she was married to Lewis Wilson. She claims that, like, she suggested Connery to her husband, and then that's why Sean Connery was James Bond. And you're like, sure, Donna.
Really?
Unverifiable at this moment in time.
But yeah, the other thing is like, just in terms of like connecting Batman with like spy stuff, is that there's of course an episode of the animated series, which is like one of those real like, this is some silly crap, man, but I love it. But like, there's an episode called "The Lion and the Unicorn," where it goes into Alfred's past, and you discover that like he was
James Bond.
He was James Bond.
He gets it on with the Queen. Yes, we've all watched Pennyworth.
Tragically, it doesn't go in that direction. But there's no whole thing with it's like because Thunderball's about like, oh yeah, Spectre just steals 2 nuclear bombs and Bond has to get them back. And the plot of the Lion and the Unicorn is Red Claw, who is like a very very Bond-esque like sort of a dominatrix international terrorist, a la Grace Jones and that kind of thing. Like, she steals an atomic bomb that she's going to drop on London. And so the episode is like, it's great because it's Batman goes to London, baby. And whereas, the animated series is like, oh, so Gotham is like 1930s New York. That's the pitch. Their version of London is like, it's like 1910 London.
Yeah.
So
it's like Jeeves and Worcester, PG Woodhouse kind of. Yeah.
It's all
never-ending tea parties and manservants.
But so you got there too. It's all smog everywhere all the time, which suits the show. Even the sexy female goons are wearing tweed flat caps, which is a real. This guy, like when Batman shows up, this guy's going like, "It's a poxy ghost, so it is. Stone the bleeding crows."
I love this. I want flat caps to be more sexualized.
And people talk about like, oh, how Sirius, the animated series, got away from again the '60s show. The episode ends with Red Claw firing a nuclear bomb towards Big Ben, and Batman blows it up before it hits Big Ben. It's like, that's Adam West stuff right there, man. Like, Batman saved Big Ben. But I really mentioned it too because I watched the episode again. I'd be like, oh, it's a fun time, and ties in weirdly to Mask of the Phantasm in that. We've mentioned several times this season that there's a recurring character in the novelization called Bert and Ernie. This is a play on Tim Burton, but also Bert and Ernie.
Every time you say that, I die inside.
Get this, John. There are 2 goons in London called Bert and Ernie in that episode.
God's sake. Oh, hang on a minute. I think I saw you post about this.
Yeah, put it in the listeners' game.
Wasn't there a very big surprise about who voiced one of them?
Yeah, Bert was voiced by Adam Ant.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? What?
That's nuts.
So again, you were saying earlier, Jack, about like, oh, you miss things, but you just don't look at the cast credits. You miss Mark Hamill was the Joker for 20 odd years. Like, going into that, going like, oh, pause. What? Oh, Adam, the Adam Ant. God damn it.
Well, he doesn't care, Ridicule's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, you do feel like he could have carried an entire episode playing a named villain, but no, just some guy.
Yeah. But one thing, speaking of things to watch, though, Jack, we are asking the guests this season, because BTS was so seminal for people of our generation, growing up. We're asking what other cartoons back in the day were you were zooming to the dial to tune into.
So it took some thinking about, because to be honest, it's like we never had satellite television, so it was like you watched what was on, whether you liked it or not, So and I was like, because we never got to see stuff like Johnny Bravo or Dexter's Lab or stuff like that until we started going to America and we could watch Cartoon Network and stuff in between. Wherever we were traveling to. So, and I was just like, what does it? And then it came to me that the big one was Tintin. Tintin is probably the closest comparable I can think where, it was just like when the cliffhanger hits and it was just like, oh, you're not going to find out until, tomorrow morning or whatever. It was just like, and just, I don't know. I mean, I still love Tintin now. I'm looking at the DVD box for the film that never got a sequel. That's on the shelf over there. And
I was literally just about to say, how are we living in a world where that didn't get a sequel?
I know.
It was amazing.
And the thing was as well, it wasn't a situation like, Dread not getting a sequel, despite the fact that it absolutely deserved one, because Dread was still, it was a small production, Tintin was a Spielberg led project from a massive studio, and even if it did underperform slightly, they obviously designed it with the intent that it was going to have a story following on from it. And then, and it's like, if Spielberg had said, we're doing another one, the studio would have went, okay, But
you don't argue with him.
My understanding of it was that they had announced like it was going to be a trilogy. Spielberg was in the first one, Peter Jackson was doing the second
one, yeah.
And then it was Joe Cornish or someone who was doing the third one. It was like, I mean, I wouldn't have lumped the three of those guys together, like Peter Jackson and Spielberg maybe, but Joe Cornish?
Well, so Thing done some work on the screenplay, didn't he? Stephen Moffat. He could only do the first one because he took over as showrunner of Doctor Who. Now, that's a possible explanation. It was just like, we can't do it without Stephen, but I find that somewhat unlikely, I mean, he's a talented writer when he gets it right, but he's not indispensable, I don't think.
But yeah. I mean, I'm noted out for minute 67. Does anyone else have anything else to say about the minute or anything, or should we wrap it on up?
Hit on everything I've got about it.
Let's fly away like we're on the jetpacks from Thunderball.
So you left a little gap there when you say fly away. My mind automatically goes to on Venga Airways.
Insert here. I mean, now I'm just thinking of the Venga bus.
Yeah,
where there's all different modes of travel now.
Yeah, they were upgrading as the songs went on. We started with a bus, then they had their own freaking airline at one point.
But will the Venga boys ever go to space?
Maybe that's what happened to them. They're lost in space.
I was going to say, actually, maybe it would be a bit. Is it too soon to say that we're maybe taking a Venga submarine down to take a look at certain depths? Certain nondescript depths in the ocean.
Oh no, the Venga boys must survive. Cultural icons. But yes, we will head off into the dark night via jetpack. That's our only mode of transport from now on. I want you to always come round to mine on yours now, and I will do the same for you.
I mean, they can see how easy they are to control in the next minute. It's like, we're going to maybe think twice about that one.
Well, I don't know. They were using them at Glastonbury, weren't they, recently? Did you see that?
But the Sean Connery jetpack was out of Glastonbury recently.
Well, they were using some kind of jetpack to deliver pizzas to the crowd.
Oh, wow.
So if you ordered a pizza on the app, someone would fly it to you on a jetpack and give you the pizza and then fly off. Jack, would you like to tell people where they can find you online or promote anything, or just give them advice about getting pizzas delivered? Well,
I mean, multiple social media platforms are imploding as though the Joker had planted, explosives in 500 miles of tunnels beneath them at the moment. So the best place to keep in touch with what I'm doing would be my Blogspot blog. So that would be Jack's Comics blog. E for Echo, L for Lima at the start, .blogspot.com. That has links to everywhere else, my Tumblr and what have you. So whichever social media site I'm emigrating to or emigrating from will all be there. Plus, it's the most reliable one for me to keep doing updates on. I'm working on a bunch of projects with a bunch of different artists at the moment. We've got a Warhammer fan story. It's a murder mystery involving orcs. That's on the way. We've got a story involving a big demon woman with a double-barrel shotgun. I know a lot of people like that kind of thing.
It sounds kind of sexy.
Vampires and pirates and whatnot. All sorts of stuff in the pipeline. So tune in to my stuff. Obviously, you'll probably link it in the show notes as well.
Yes.
And I will also, depending on what time this goes up, it might be afterwards, but I'm going to be at the Lakes International Comic Art Festival at the end of September as well, selling print editions of all my stuff. So if you're inclined to that area, you can catch me there.
Brilliant. Yeah, check all of that out, everybody. And as usual, find us on Facebook at the Batminute Listeners Cave, or on all other social media, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. We haven't got a Blue Sky yet. If someone wants to invite us, I'll make one. Can't promise we'll use it, but I'll make one.
We're all still refugees stuck outside the wall at the moment.
And I've made that mistake again of saying Twitter, X. For God's sake.
I don't think anyone's got all of that. So.
No, I'm not. I refuse to. I try to, and then I cringe every single time. Check us out on all of those, and join us again next time for minute 68 of Bat Minute of the Phantasm.
Next time, Joker packed his bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour. 9 a.m. And I think he's gonna be high as a kite by then. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till Batman brings him back again to find he's not the clown they think he is at home. Oh, no. He's a rocket man. Rocket man. Burning up his fuse out here alone. Well, not quite. For as a dementedly dog detective commandeers a whack job wing commander's getaway, and the doomed duo go loop-de-loop through the dark night, could our hell-bent hero finally go homicidal/suicidal to end their eternal fight? We mull over mutually assured destruction on the morrow, Batmites. Same Bat-Pod. Different Bat-Minute.
must have dope, stiff it up,